Mama wanna get it nice. I know food I may so. I know food I say. I know Kaya Marie. Come back with Dotty come. When Dotty come,
Come back with Uyo. Anutara Mari, Anugaya Mari, Garai Mamunsko, Paninya Panu, Jamno da Kunsko, Snutoro Panu, Madiko Kumunsko.
July 2023, and I'm sorry about the technical issues that we've been experiencing. Dr. Fegas Mtenere, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you? And a very good evening to our viewers.
Right, we like the haircut. It's looking amazing. You can see that. Yes.
We're starting.
Yeah. So, Doc, we've got a very important discussion today. And I want to quickly do an introduction, then I'll leave the floor to you. So we are going to the elections in the next 35 days. And there's been a number of reports and people get very emotional when the survey results are released. Specifically, there has been a recent report by AFROBAROMETER, which has actually been censored. So AFROBAROMETER has not widely circulated this report because they obviously are afraid of the consequences of putting out that report. If you look for that latest round 10 or round 9 report, you won't be able to find it anywhere as a PDF. I've asked them myself to provide that report, and there are only snippets of that report. There are currently 2 reports which are recent, and then 2 survey reports which are a bit older. And the last 2, they show results for Nelson Chamisa and President Mnangagwa. They show the parties, ZANU-PF, and the CCC, and the MDC. And it's very revealing. If you're a member of ZANU-PF, you'll be very concerned about the results. But I want to first of all give the indication or an introduction of who AFROBAROMETER is. AFROBAROMETER is based in Ghana, and it is sponsored by 2 main organizations, which is the United States Aid Agency and the Swedish. And in Zimbabwe, they are represented by the Mass Public Opinions Survey. So the guys who do the surveys there in Zimbabwe. And I've been going through their reports, very, very detailed reports, about 87 pages. And most of the reports are very good. They've shown a good indication of what happens in Zimbabwean elections from the past. However, I obviously criticize them for their lack of consistency from one report to another. So it's very difficult to compare one report to the next. There's a change of format, there's a change of background. So that is the criticism that I give the guys from AFROBAROMETER. Also, the surveys are too long. Some of the answers may not be reliable, except if you pay people to fill those results. So, Doc, I want to quickly run through the results, right? The results that we have here. And as I said, this one will be very concerning to ZANU-PF, specifically ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF, as I said this week, they lack data on what is going to happen. They're afraid of the election because they lack data. So we want to give a bit of clarity of what is going to happen in this election. We want to start with the latest AFROBAROMETER survey. And if you look on the screen, so let me remove my banner. This is what ZANU-PF has been sharing. So ZANU activists have been sharing this, saying Nelson Chamisa is going to lose to President Mnangagwa. And I will give you a chance, Doc, to look at this and to give us your interpretation. But I want to go back to 2018. So look closely. Chamisa had 27, President Mnangagwa had 35%. If we go back to 2018, there are two reports, right? So if you look at this report, which is here, Chamisa had 37%, President Mnangagwa had 40%, refused to answer was 20%. And I want you to look carefully at the 20%, and I take you back here and look carefully at the 27%, which is refused to answer. Then I want us to go back to 2018 again. And this was the party, the political party. How close are you to a political party? And the Nelson Chamisa was on 34%, sorry, the other way, 29%, and President Mnangagwa was on 34%. Then we go back to this one here, close to a political party that is a year ago or 2 years ago, refused to answer. That was 52%. You remember this is the time when there was a clash within the MDC alliance. So people were not close to a party. Then you go back to the voting intentions of this particular election which we are going into in 2021. President Mnangagwa had 33%, Chamisa had 26%. You remember I made a video about this. President Mnangagwa was ahead of Nelson Chamisa. Then we go now to close to party. Right, close to party. I think you need to be careful with these numbers because of the way that they're represented here. So we had 42% for, okay, the close to party was 56%, not close to the party was 4.2%. So people who don't feel close to a party. So which party are you close to? This is the one that shows you which party are you closer to. So ZANU-PF 27%, CCC 25.6%. Then which party are you going to vote for? Which person are you going to vote for if you're going to vote? And Chamisa is ahead of President Mnangagwa with 33%, and President Mnangagwa had 30.4%. Right, Doc, these are the results which we had. And I want us to unpack these results. I'm going to give the reports. If you go now to gambako.com, you'll find the old reports. They're already there. But as I said, AFROBAROMETER is censoring the latest report. And they're specifically doing so for a reason that I think they don't want to cause problems. They don't want to cause a problem ahead of the elections. If you look for that full report, you won't find it. You're going to find snippets. You're going to find a communication about the reports, but you won't find the actual report. So I challenge the AFROBAROMETER guys to produce the report, the full report, so that we can look at the methodology, so that we can look at what they actually say. But in short, the final and latest answer that we've got is here. Nelson Chamisa is ahead in this particular, in the latest full report that we've got, is ahead in terms of what people intend to do with their votes in 2023. And there is a lot more. If you look at how people rate President Mnangagwa, how people rate the courts, how people rate political parties, civil servants, judges, courts, it's all negative. And people say things are going in the wrong direction. Hence I say AFROBAROMETER is censoring this report. And also the fact that if you are obviously a resident in Zimbabwe, people are not very welcoming to negative feedback. And of course, it doesn't apply to me because I go into Zimbabwe in and out very, very freely. I'm not saying anything about the guys in Zimbabwe, but most people feel that way, that if they say anything negative about ZANU-PF, they'll be in trouble. So the ZANU-PF guys must be very careful when they look at this data, because I have a feeling that AFROBAROMETER here is massaging the numbers to please them. These are not the numbers. If you go into the methodology, if you go into the depth of how close are you to a party, how close are you to CCC, you start seeing a different picture. So, Doc, I've talked a lot. Is there anything you want to clarify from me before I hand the mic to you?
No, before that, thank you very much, Gambakwe. Actually, interesting statistics. I just want you to bring back this graph, the bar graph you are saying, where President Mnangagwa is coming in at 35 with CCC on 27, and the other one, yes. And then I want you to compare again with that table. There is a table now where there is a 33% for CCC. Right. Is this the same report?
Okay. So this report is June 2022. And the one that you are looking at here, so this is the current July 2020.
Oh, good. Good. So that's what I wanted clarification on. So basically, Gambako, can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. So I wanted you to make that clarification because there seemed to be a bit of a contradiction, that one on the table is showing. So that is the 2022 one, and the latest one is the bar graph with 35%. Okay.
That's what I'm trying to clarify, that AFROBAROMETER have not made available that section. So yes, the inconsistency that I was talking about, when they say President Mnangagwa has got 27% and Chamisa has got, President Mnangagwa has got 35% and Chamisa has got 27%, they've actually not made available the underlying data, which you can use to compare other things. For example, how close are you to a party? Which party are you likely to vote for? And so forth. They've not made available that data. If you go to their website and try to download that report, you cannot download, you cannot open it. And we've requested them. It's not like we're just talking. I've requested them to provide me that report, and they've not done so.
Thank you very much, Gambakwe. Actually, that's where the criticism, the critique of such reports comes. By the way, let's start first things first about the authenticity of such reports. Of course, we all know that the AFROBAROMETER reports are usually quite dependable by many researchers, many people who seek for data. But in this one, there are so many problems that arise, actually, Gambakwe, if you look at it. And I'm going to say my views on this particular report. Obviously, such reports, again, such surveys, you would see that they are more useful and more frequently done in developed countries, or in countries where there is a perception of
Oh, yo. uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere
My apologies to that. I think today I'm having a leg. So what I was saying is the most important thing that we need to realize, Dr. Muteri is lost, we've lost connection there, is that ZANU-PF takes data very, very seriously. When they see a result of data, they actually act on it. Whereas if you look at the CCC, they look at data in a different way. So I wanted to show you the result from Brandhurst Trust that was done a year ago. And ZANU-PF was very unhappy with that report. This particular report that AFROBAROMETER has done is been shared widely by members of ZANU-PF. So that's why I wanted Dr. Fedias Mtenere to go deeper into the way this looks. Does this make sense given the rest of the report, what it says? Obviously, there's communication from AFROBAROMETER on this report. But does this make sense? And I think, Doc, I was just explaining while I waited for you to come back to continue with your answer.
Thank you very much, Gambakwe. I was still explaining that such reports may not necessarily bring a real picture, depending on the level of development of a country. And I was saying in countries which are more open, countries which have got a perception of a better perception of democracy, freedom of speech, and stuff like that, they are more useful. In Africa here, we can talk of countries like South Africa, countries like Ghana. You'll find that such reports are very useful. But in countries with an environment of repression, an environment of intimidation, such as ours in Zimbabwe, such reports, you have to take them with a pinch of salt. That takes me to those results that you were showing there. Clearly, what it is showing is that there is 35% for President Mnangagwa, and there is 27% for Advocate Nelson Chamisa. But I want you were right to point us to the 26%, the 26% of those who refused rather to reveal their preferences for both parliamentary and presidential elections, respectively. That is the margin of error, of fear in Zimbabwe. That is the margin of intimidation. That is obviously known to be the cohort of opposition players, or people rather, who would not want to reveal their preferences for fear of intimidation. So once you put that into perspective, that is the swing vote. From my own point of view, that is the swing vote for the CCC. So to continue further, Gambako, you are picking up actually the right thing here, that if you read through the AFROBAROMETER report, I want you to bring your attention to some of these major, the major summary of this report. 65% of those people, who were interviewed, they said the country is going in a wrong way. That's number one. Number two, 62% of people interviewed there, they said the living conditions in Zimbabwe are very bad. 85% of people that were interviewed, they said the government has performed badly, right? And you can continue to go on and on and to hear the negative percentage. But one would wonder why, then after people have said ZANU-PF is taking us in a wrong direction, those same people would then come and say, we are going to vote for ZANU-PF. It's a sort of a paradox for me. And I think it is totally something to do with the methodology that was being used. And secondly, Gambakwe, I would say, in such surveys such as this, it's only about 1,200 people to a maximum of 2,400 people who are out of a total, say, of 6 million people who are registered voters. Looking at their methodologies, even the type of sampling they do, I don't think this directly speaks to the real feelings of the people. I think earlier, I wanted to communicate with you. There is another report, in fact, the most recent than the AFROBAROMETER report, the Elite Africa Research, which actually speaks the same as the AFROBAROMETER in terms of how people feel about where the country is being taken. But in that report, which is the latest one after this AFROBAROMETER report, actually, out of the 2,000 registered voters that were polled there, 47.6% of those the respondents said that they would vote for Advocate Nelson Chamisa, and only 38.7% said that they would vote for President Mnangagwa. And that is if you compare it with the AFROBAROMETER one, you would see that swing vote coming into play, because I think this one is a more authentic one. I think this AFROBAROMETER one is a bit tempered with. It clearly shows this Elite Africa Research. It clearly shows that Advocate Nelson Chamisa has a clear 8 to 9% margin of victory against President Mnangagwa. Right. And similarly, let me show you what it says. This Africa Elite report. It says 47.7% of the people would vote for the CCC in the parliamentary election. The first one I talked about was the presidential one. And then only 39% would vote for ZANU-PF, and it's consistent in the 8 to 9% margin of victory that Advocate Nelson Chamisa will have. And there's a similarity between this Elite Africa Research report, which says 69.4% thought that the country is heading in a wrong direction, while 23% says it was headed in the right direction. So you can see there is here they seem to be meeting at the same conclusion. But there's a critical thing that the Elite Africa report brings out, which says 77.5% they believe that the economy was getting worse, and only 19% is saying it is getting better. Total of 59%, Gambakwe, said they hoped for a new government, yet only 37% said they hoped the same government would stay. So you can see that almost 60% is saying a new government. Which new government is there? The only alternative is the CCC. In this survey, Advocate Nelson Chamisa is emerging with, and when they were asked, do you favor this one or who is unfavorable, Advocate Nelson Chamisa came with a net positive score of 29.6%, while President Mnangagwa came out with a net negative of 2.6%. I'll continue. Similarly, the CCC registered a net positive as a party, as a political party, a net positive of 28.6%, while ZANU-PF scored a net negative of 2.7%. I want to just highlight one thing there. Firstly, on the net positives, you will see that Advocate Nelson Chamisa even enjoys positivity more than his party, the CCC. I want to say a point there. And President Mnangagwa, at least he is more popular than his party, ZANU-PF. On the negative side, he has got 2.6 net negative, and his party has got a 2.7 net negative. So ZANU-PF itself is loathed more than President Mnangagwa. Probably that's his only positive in the most negative side. But again, this puts paid to the likes of Jonathan Moyo's arguments and rantings that he has been saying about the entrance of Xavier Kasukwere, in which he said in the 2018 election why Advocate Nelson Chamisa got more votes was that there was that part of the ZANU-PF G40 which voted for him. But in this very current report, it is showing that still Advocate Nelson Chamisa is enjoying favorability against President Mnangagwa, against or compared even to Triple C itself. So in any case, I think Advocate Nelson Chamisa has increased way more in his favorability. And therefore, from these results, it totally proves one thing, that there is high level of discontent amongst Zimbabweans. The only thing I have a problem with the AFROBAROMETER report is that its findings of how people feel do not match the voting patterns, which is a real paradox. Let me tell you, Dr. Zamchia tried to actually explain that those kinds or those differences in 4 points. And here are the 4 points that he raised in trying to say probably why he thinks that the results are this way. He said, first, people in Zimbabwe do not believe that elections can result in the change of government in the current environment. And he said 54% of the people had said that. But this is disproved by the current one you were showing us, Gambakwe. It actually is saying most Zimbabweans now, they think that elections are the best way of changing government. That is the latest AFROBAROMETER report itself. It is, if people go to their report titled Zimbabweans Support Multi-Party Competition, and they say policy preferences inform voter decisions, you will realize that Zimbabweans today view elections as the best way actually to remove or to change governments. So I tend to differ with Dr. Zamchia on that. The second point that he gave is that people in Zimbabwe do not believe that the announced results reflect the counted votes. That I agree with him. Actually, that is a common extent in the Zimbabwean context, that the perception of rigging, in fact, the reality of rigging is there, because rigging is not an event in Zimbabwe, it's a process. For instance, right now we've been seeing the banning of the political rallies of the Triple C. We've been seeing that the Triple C is totally blacked out from the national broadcaster. We see that there's a lot of intimidation, a lot of beatings of political opponents by suspected ZANU-PF people. We see that, in fact, ZANU-PF is the one that is practicing a strategy, what they can call strategic ambiguity, because while their president on pulpits is busy saying want a peaceful vote, the energy methodis of this world and others are busy beating up people, intimidating voters. So totally in such an environment, obviously there is massive rigging, and it is true that Zimbabweans do not believe that the announced results reflected the counted votes. They do not. There is a whole lot of manipulation. For the third point that Dr. Zamchia raises actually is that people in Zimbabwe fear to be victims of violence during elections, and so they vote to ensure peace in their communities. This I totally agree with you. But today's voter with the amount of inroads that the Triple C has done in the rural areas, I think they are much more aware, they are much more clever, and you cannot use such intimidation, such as to say we will know who you vote for. We will know if you vote for so and so. Somewhere there are cameras, or we will be able to retrieve your name and know who you voted for. I think the voter today is much more aware. In fact, the Elite Africa research clearly brings that out in terms of statistics. There is more voters who totally do not believe that they can be discovered who they've voted for, and it actually agrees with the AFROBAROMETER research, actually, that people do not believe in this ZANU-PF propaganda of intimidation. Now, the fourth point that he talks about, and I also want to agree with him, and that bad performance by ZANU-PF does not automatically transfer allegiance to Triple C. And on that note, I think it is purely to advise the Triple C that with the next 30 to 35 days left to the election, they should definitely put their people on the ground and try as much as possible to convince the 26%, 20 to 27% of those voters who did not reveal. But there is, if you look also, if you can bring back Gambako, if you can bring back the bar graph, there is that the 6% which would not vote, and the 5% who would not vote. If you count that, that is almost 38% to 40%. If the Triple C can work on this cohort, definitely they can convince them, and they can swing together with the refuse to answer. That is a total landslide for the Triple C. And I think, if in comparison to the Africa Elite Research and the AFROBAROMETER research, it is clearly showing that President Mnangagwa stands no chance at all in this election, except what they are doing to intimidate Triple C, to refuse Triple C to campaign. And by the way, the entrance of Xavier Kasukwere, I totally believe that it will have an impact on ZANU-PF. And once that happens, and which is what is going to happen, Triple C, as led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa, is in the clear lead, and it is the new government come 23rd of August 2023. Thank you, Gambakwe, for now.
Okay, Doc. So what I want us to do is I want us to do some permutations and some calculations and some projections. So I want to give you my numbers that I think Chamisa is going to get based on your analysis in mind. So here is the AFROBAROMETER numbers, right? For 2023. So the people who said refuse to answer, and the people who said CCC, that's 54%.
Yes.
I'm going to give Chamisa these people, these two. You know why? If we go back to 2018, right? This was the voting intention in 2018. That was 37% and 20%. Refused to answer.
Yeah.
Chamisa, you removed the 7% there. You almost got 50% there. So if I was ZANU-PF, I would be very, very worried with this report, especially given these numbers. These numbers tell me that there are a lot of CCC people, especially in the rural areas. If you look at CCC rural areas, it's almost 30%. And urban, it's saying 40%. You know for a fact that it's not 40% urban. So there's obviously something wrong there. So if I was a ZANU-PF strategist, I would be projecting Nelson Chamisa with between 57 and 66%. That is where I put Chamisa, on 2/3 or on at least 57%. That is where he's going to be, or 54 to 66%. That is his voters, based on the numbers that are here. And if you look at other reports from Brandhurst Trust and so forth, they are putting Chamisa at those numbers. And that was before the collapse of the currency. The collapse of the currency is a very big problem. So this is my projection. I don't know from your side, what do you say?
Oh, totally. I'm in total agreement with you, Gambakwe, in that, I mean, the figures speak for themselves. And ZANU-PF has continued to shoot itself in the foot in that they have continued to use the old-time strategy of intimidation, of violence. That's why this is coming through. If you look closely in the AFROBAROMETer report that has just come out, it says, in fact, I don't know if you can find it. It actually says more than 69%, closer to 70% of Zimbabweans now no longer vote according to general political party affiliation, but according to policy. This is coming out of this AFROBAROMETer report. They vote according to the policy that the candidate is putting across, and also their knowledge of that candidate, and that alone, you can tell that who is speaking more to policy. Advocate Nelson Chamisa has been speaking more to policy than President Mnangagwa, I think. And President Mnangagwa is being judged on his performance from 2018. They promised that the whole country would be Ichangiana Magets. There is total darkness. They promised that that the Zimbabwean currency is the strongest in the region. He even break that the strongest in the region. Today, with all due respect to Venezuela, it is the weakest in the world. He promised people roads, but what they are showing us are snippets of roads, just snippets of a few kilometers of road that has been created. Recently, I went home through Boterekwa. Boterekwa is a shadow of itself. That place looked beautiful, used to be beautiful. If you go there, and with the Chinese doing a whole lot of damaging of that environment, it's totally potholes. In fact, it's impassable. And I laughed the other day. I found some 3 guys when I was passing through there. 3 guys pushing a wheelbarrow which had sand in it, attempting to close some of the potholes. And I thought, how laughable is this? And in fact, that is the story of many townships, the story of many roads in Zimbabwe. So he has promised to deal with infrastructure. Nothing has been done. What they break with is not even the work of their own. Look at the new parliament of Zimbabwe. That was a project started by President Mugabe, and it's the Chinese who totally funded that. And we don't know how much our country has been mortgaged through the construction of that parliament. While we think it's a good edifice there, but how much more was put into it, we don't know. Look how they break with the Beitbridge border post. You, Gambakwe, you are a well-traveled man. Look at the ports of entries of other countries, and look at what we break with. It is just a minute development. I mean, it's refurbishment, really. It's nothing. The infrastructure we have, it's Smith's infrastructure. How shameful is that? Smith's hospital, Smith's roads, Smith's offices, everything that Smith. You know why that happens? Is because of the massive corruption where people, instead of sharing the cake with the whole country, they resort to a lot of plundering and using the resources for their own use. So they do not speak to policy. So ZANU-PF, on its performance alone, talk of engagement and re-engagement, they have totally failed. Right now, we are still a topic of debate at the Commonwealth whether we should be readmitted or not. We are still talking about sanctions because ZANU-PF knows how to blame. I mean, they play the blame game, and then they fail to realize that no, after blaming, you need to do work. We always say under the same sanctions, Smith did all the development that we have today. Why have they failed to do the same? Now they failed in re-engaging the international community. They've failed in engaging new friends, and they've resorted to the old Mugabe kind of style. So on their performance from 2018, Zimbabwe, already people are measuring on those policy decisions they have made, on their impact, and they realize that is 0, 0, 0. We are back to 2008. In 2023, we are back to 2008, and people really do not like that. People, as I've always said, they just want to run their lives without thinking of politics. But it's politics stupid. Every time you go to buy a loaf of bread, you think of President Mnangagwa. That shouldn't be. You have stayed in South Africa. You know very well that it's not every time that politics has to come to your mouth or to your mind when you have to go about your business. You can, a normal economy, you should be able to just buy a loaf of bread. You should have to be able to buy just a basic meal for your children. You should be able to buy just some basic relics for your children. But in Zimbabwe, that is not totally happening. So that's why the AFROBAROMETer partly is talking to exactly what Zimbabweans are feeling. In fact, when they say the country is going the wrong way, the wrong direction, that the economy is going in the wrong direction, that the leadership has totally failed. But where they just shock me is how they can bring a 35% saying ZANU-PF. How can I say, Gambakwe, you are taking me the wrong way? Then I said, Gambakwe, you are leading my economy the wrong way. Gambakwe, I think you are taking us all in the wrong direction. And I'm asked, who do I vote for? I say I vote for Gambakwe. That is a contradiction. And I think
Right.
just to explain that.
Okay, Doc, you know one thing about me.
Yes.
I like data.
Yeah.
I read everything, and I read it in detail. So if you give me a report, there's a report by Alexander Noyes. You all know how much I've been going on about that report. The report by Brenda's Trust, all the reports from AFROBAROMETer, I go into detail. I read all the 87 pages. And I'm clear that people are speaking very, very clearly. If you're a ZANU-PF strategist or part of the election campaign team, it will be very difficult for you to find a place where ZANU-PF has been delivering to the people. This is a very bad problem for ZANU-PF, because if they lose this election, ZANU-PF is going to be totally destroyed. They won't be able to come back. People will be saying ZANU-PF did this or ZANU-PF did that. So it's a do and die election for ZANU-PF. If they don't win now, ZANU-PF will be gone for good.
And Gambakwe, I just want you to go again, if you can go to page 11. In fact, I think those who have also said Triple C does not have a strategy, quite miscalculated. I think what the Triple C, Gambakwe, do you know what they call the Burumango strategy? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So listen, if you go to page 11 of the AFROBAROMETer, it actually talks to the Burumango strategy. What is it saying? It says 83% says I will vote. It is actually talking to the factors that will affect the voting decision in the 2023 election. So 83% are saying we will vote because someone has got policies that I agree with. Then the 54% says if someone comes from my province. But look at only 33%, which says I will vote for them if they give me gifts. So why do I say it talks to the Burumango strategy? The Triple C has said, go where there are green t-shirts. Go be like ZANU-PF. Get their gifts if you have to. If it's food parcels that they are being distributed on party lines, get them. But just know inside what you are going to vote for. So if you take, especially even these 33%, which are so low, and put them to the 83%, you totally realize that Triple C is actually of course, we know why ZANU-PF now has gone to the strategy of trying. Look what is happening in Bulawayo, and Jonathan Moyo is even pushing for it, where they want to disqualify those 11 candidates. So they are going to go for these bullying tactics in which they seek to disqualify rather than to allow for free competition and campaign on policy. But they are going to try and cause a lot of havoc. They will try to disqualify the people, those candidates in Bulawayo on the basis that they registered after the nomination code. Right now, they are all over, jumping up and down, celebrating between 50 and 70 councils where they disrupted Triple C members from registering their nominations, and they are celebrating that. So they are going to go for these bullying tactics, but they should be informed that today's voter is more aware, is more educated, and the chakachinjiza ndo chakatanga. Once bitten, twice shy. ZANU-PF has used these strategies, and when it comes to delivering, they don't deliver. And even the hardcore ZANU-PF supporters now realize and know that no, it doesn't work that way. We need a new direction. We need a new CEO of the economy. We need someone who would bring unity to the country, someone who talks unity. President Mnangagwa, sometimes he continues to decampaign himself. The kind of talk he talks, Musoro Wambuya Wako, that kind of talk. I don't know, when other people listen to him, what do they hear? Even those who will be ululating, raising flags, what are they hearing? Because he totally speaks division when he talks. When he talks, he totally talks. He doesn't talk like Father Zimbabwe, like someone who wants to unite the country that he is leading. He comes out arrogant. He comes out, you can even feel them when they speak at their rallies. But if you want to woo me into your party and you talk like that, how do you even bring me to the party? That is the boastfulness of power, the arrogance of power that they are drunk in, that they forget to talk to real policies. They forget to talk to the real statistics, like you are saying, Gambagwe. What are the statistics saying? How do we strategize? Because the whole idea of these statistics is then that political parties should strategize around those issues that these reports talk to, and try to implement policies or to come up with policies that will deal with the concerns of the people. Now, when you look at all those ZANU-PF rallies where people are bussed en masse, a whole lot of bussing, and people who get stranded, people who are said at rallies, only for the numbers, and then people are stampeding and almost tearing each other because they are running for a piece of Zimbabwe, KFC, chicken. You reduce people to Zaka, and then that person gets stranded, only to give them a piece of chicken in. That is the kind of how ZANU-PF views its people. And we are saying today's voter doesn't want that. Who are bussed, they end up going there because they fear for their lives. But ZANU-PF is actually campaigning for the Triple C. My projected one, Gambakwe, my projected one is that I mean, in a real free and fair election, Advocate Nelson Chamisa is going for a total landslide of a 2/3 majority, which starts from, is it 75%? But within the environment, obviously, in looking at the numbers, I think I will agree with you that you will get from between 57 to 71%, between 57 to 71% in the current environment.
So let's put your numbers here. These are my Zimbabwe numbers, right?
Yes.
So let's put yours. So you are saying Chamisa is 71%.
Between
57%
yes,
to
71%. 71% in that margin under the current environment. But given a free and fair election, he is a 75% plus.
Okay, so Dr. Mteneri, I'm putting these numbers here for the record because obviously during the 2018 elections, I did my projections, and at that time, Chamisa was quite high. I think he was on 62% or something. And unfortunately, a lot of things happened there. But this time around, if I was ZANU-PF, I'll be very, very concerned. Let's wrap this up. I think we've talked enough about a lot of things. And I want us to come back next week and obviously look at the post-election period, what is going to happen there. And you're welcome to come in between the week and also discuss this as an editorial. But currently, I think ZANU-PF, you can see, they lack a strategy on how to move forward after the economy collapsed around them. They have failed to create a manifesto. They have failed to communicate to the urban voter the things that they're doing, bringing American celebrities and so forth. They don't translate into votes. Yeah. It's to most people, it's alienating most of the young people. When they see Floyd Mayweather, they've got no connection with him.
And then they pay him $1 million, and the people in the community do not benefit anything.
Yes, and also the consumption, the way that they consume in public, you can see they don't have any. They're not afraid to show off. So some of these things, these are the things that a proper campaign strategist would have told ZANU-PF what to do. Their current approach has actually backfired on them, especially the way they reacted to the economy. That was a big problem, and I think it's clear in the AFROBAROMETER survey, almost 20% of the people have gone to bed without eating. If you look at there's 6% who have less than 2 meals. There's I think 14% who know someone who goes to bed without eating. You need to read this AFROBAROMETER reports. They show you a lot about how people are living. People without an income, almost 40% of the people know someone without a job. A lot of people have never worked, over 30%. They've never been employed. So the strategy that ZANU-PF needs to take within the next 30 days is something that we need to discuss. What do they need to do? If it was me who was ZANU-PF president, I would do an emergency situation. I would do things that will make, if I walk to Harare in 30 days, it must be different. But it's going to be a mountain to climb for ZANU-PF in terms of how much time is left. Honestly, this is a period of people jumping ship. I see some people jumping ship from ZANU-PF right now, except for the cars. They obviously want the cars. So yeah, they'll probably stick around a bit.
No, and Gambako, while I know you are wrapping up, but there's something that I think we need to debunk, and this talk has come from both ZANU-PF insiders and some pseudo analysts who are trying to throw in the issue of a runoff, and that's where Kasukuwere is brought in. That's why last week I was telling you that Kasukuwere is his candidature should be viewed with a pinch of salt. I asked about how genuine he is and who is working with him. So ZANU-PF is staring defeat in the face, and normally this is exactly what they do to try to neutralize. Not only to neutralize, but to create a narrative to which, once they make sure that they have hammered it in people's heads, at that time when they are defeated, the least they can do is to try to bring in a runoff and probably repeat what they did in 2008, go for another violent exercise of a one-man election. So that thing should be, people should never entertain it. That's why I said Xavier Kasukuwere's entrance, while he has got his right to be voted for, or to vote for whoever he wants to create his political party, but if he was genuine about what he says is pushing him to be a candidate here, to change and correct things. His strategy should have been that of a unifying figure. He should have gone to Advocate Nelson Chamisa and said, I want to work with you. Where can I come in to support you, to support your candidature, because you are the most favored candidate, because that is for everyone to see. These reports are talking to that. But the fact that he is coming with that arrogance of himself to say, I want to run, I know I've got support. I want to tell you that it is again part of that ZANU-PF narrative and discourse to try to veer us into a non-existent runoff. Advocate Nelson Chamisa is clear from these reports that he has got a landslide victory.
Okay, Doc. So, you know, I want to mention something before I go.
Yes.
ZANU-PF guys and CCC guys, they're very funny. When I make a positive video about one side, the other side wants to kill me. So when I make a positive video about Chamisa or whatever is going to happen, the ZANU-PF guys, they call me and they say, Gambako, you're now going to CCC.
But
and Chamisa's guys, they are worse.
That's why they should listen to me.
Yeah.
At most times, Gambako, we have had differing opinions, differing views. I mean, totally very antagonistic views. But here we are. It is what we are doing, and we said it, if you can search in one of the videos, this is how we nurture tolerance. This is how we nurture conversation as a people, as a nation. That, Gambako, you can have your views, but can I look you in your eyes and also tell you my views without you poking my eye? Can we do that? Which is actually something that needs to be cured. So, Gambako, at least you are a seasoned journalist. That is part of the trade. That is part of the trade, and I think people will learn over time that me and you, and I like what we have done over the past 4 or so years, that we have had at many a times differing views, but there is no day you have insulted. People should hear us when we talk over the phone. We are brothers, and yet sometimes at particular times our views are different. That's a Zimbabwe that is needed to be created. ZANU-PF has engendered intolerance. It's actually their blood. It's for a ZANU-PF person, and it's unfortunate that CCC, you know, you can only become what your abuser is like. You know, when you continuously get abused, you become like what your abuser is. If you are a child seeing your mother being beaten by the father every now and then, and you don't like it, when you marry, you start beating yours. This is what ZANU-PF has done to CCC, but thank God we have got a leader like Advocate Nelson Chamisa. You know, Advocate Nelson Chamisa has always spoken. He has always spoken, peace, and that is what this nation desires.
Yeah. So, would you take a position in the Chamisa government if he calls you and says, you please come and do some work for us when he wins?
Don't be mischievous. Don't be mischievous, Gambako. Don't be mischievous. Listen, I think that is what most Zimbabweans, where most Zimbabweans have lost it, that they've taken politics as a career. They've taken politics, you know, because everyone thinks. For some of us, we want a new government that is created by Advocate Nelson Chamisa so that we can be able to flourish in the various areas that we have studied for. You know, if you have studied your master's, your PhD, then you want to be able to get opportunities or to create your own opportunities within that area, create employment for others, enjoy it out of politics. So Gambako, I don't even want to be asked that question, but at any given time, every person will be proud to work for their country, to serve their country when they are asked to do so. I mean, it is always an honor for when people are asked to do that, but in an environment that is good. But for now, we don't do this for us to think that we'll be called. They know We do this to enlighten people out there like Daniso Mpofu that kana kuchinzi nyika inovakwa nevene vayo. Vene vayo havangori veZANU-PF. Vene vayo means even vaya vosingawirirani navo, even those you do not agree with, those who have got different opinions with you, vanotowo vene vayo ivavo. Saka that is tisu vene venyika isu, tisu varidzi vayo. Saka we work for it in our various capacities.
Right, thank you very much, Doc. And I really enjoyed talking to you. And I promised you this, that I'll tell you, based on the facts, who is going to win the elections in 2023. If it doesn't happen, I will swallow my words. And but it's really unlikely, given the situation that is there. I think we're in the right direction. So let's wrap it up, Doc. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
One last word is that the reports have spoken. Okay, of course, we give them a margin of error. CCC now needs to work hard. No need to sit on the laurels. If anything, even go deeper into the raw areas. Sway that 27% plus 6% plus 5%. Sway them with that strategy you have been going on with. Get to them and speak to them as to what you are going to do when you get into government, and to the majority of the voters out there, Zimbabweans. Let's go out and vote, and let's vote with our eyes open. Let's vote with our eyes open. We cannot continue the road that we have traveled for 43 years. We are presented with an opportunity to correct what is wrong with our country. We are presented with an opportunity to have a breath of fresh air into our country, into our economy, into our politics, and this is the opportunity. And come 23rd of August, there is a huge. You can see the choices is between the young and the old. The choice is between the digital and the analog. The choices is between violence and peace. It's between intimidation and comfort. It is between. It's there for everyone to see. It's between arrogance and love. It's all there, and let's go and do it. And we will do it for posterity. We'll do it for our children, so that they do not spit on our graves and say, why didn't you correct things? Thank you very much, Kambakwe, and thank you to all our viewers.
Our biggest thing is what we call this strategic ambiguity, the doctrine of making sure that the enemy doesn't know what we are doing. Siyahamba nyovani, siyangena nyovani, backwards, but we're going to make it.
Uyo uko kuno aho pano mamuona kere nai anovura meso anovura nzeve